Hey guys, welcome to another MapleStory video. We've got episode 2 of the beginner's guide, and I want to get you guys introduced to the various systems in MapleStory early on, so that way as we continue going along you can get yourself further acquainted with them to make your character stronger. So like most RPGs, there are various ways you can empower your characters outside of just having good equipment. For example, in Pokemon there are things like IVs and EVs, natures, breeding Pokemon to give them exclusive moves that all make them stronger outside of just like reaching level 100, right? MapleStory has a lot of them, too many in my opinion. In fact, it feels like they add a new one every damn 6 months. But even though a good 3/4 of these systems and mechanics you'll not really have to worry about until much later, it's important to know that they exist. For those of you who know what Chekhov's gun is, it's an important plot element that's planted early in the story, and it becomes integral to the plot later on, kinda like that. Last episode we talked about establishing your main server and getting you to think about your main character. The reason you want to know about these ahead of time is because they are what influence the rest of your progression. And while I go through the guide, I highly advise serious players to bookmark the MapleStory strategy wiki, which is for all intents and purposes the closest thing to a centralized written guidebook for Maple that you can find. It covers a lot of important aspects in GMS, from things like statistics, mechanics, quests, classes, bosses, items, and other things. I reference a lot of material from there, so if there are still gamers out there that like to read, best resource to have at your disposal. First in line, Maple Legion. The Maple Legion as a whole comprises all of your characters in a server, with each character serving as a sort of Tetris piece that you can put on a grid, with more spaces of the grid being unlocked the more characters you have, adding up the total level of all of your characters. System is great because it allows you to receive a whole bunch of bonus stats across all your characters, with some being more useful than others, and it also gives you access to a coin shop with extremely important items. This is the longest time investment you'll have to do, since theoretically speaking, to fully max out the Maple Legion you'll need a total level of 10,000 or 40 characters each level 250, which literally no one in the world has. Don't let it scare you though, you're not expected to reach 10k. Most endgame players hover around 6,000 to 8,000. Oh, I should also mention I'm only briefly getting you into these various systems if you want to learn more about it, and I highly recommend you do. Tons of links in the description below. I know you guys don't like reading, but I have both video guides and text guides for each system, so please give it a look. Second, link skills. Link skills and Maple Legion, they go hand in hand with each other. Since both of them are worked on by leveling up a bunch of characters, not only does each class come with a stat bonus block in the Maple Legion, but almost all of them, and soon to be all of them, they carry a link skill that you can bind to another character in your account. Link skills get stronger the higher level your link skill character is, starting at 70, then 120, and then finally 210. I mentioned in the previous video that you'll eventually be playing every single class in the game, and this is mostly what I meant, because you want to get every single link skill and Maple Legion block. Certain characters have more valuable link skills than others, so if you want to know which ones to prioritize, I have a couple links for you to check out. Third, Hyperstats. When you check your stat window, you'll notice a small little button at the bottom left named Hyperstats, which basically are just a bunch of extra stats that you can put points into. Every level you get a few Hyperstat points that you can put into some very important combat stats such as total damage, boss damage, critical hit rate, ignore defense, etc. Hyperstats reach up to a level cap, and the higher level your Hyperstat is, the more points it costs to level up, so it's cumulative. They don't really affect your character's performance early on, since all of them are percent based, but as you know, the higher the base number is, the more that percent value will be too. So 10% of 10 is only 1, but 10% of 1,000 is 100, so it's going to be more significant in the future. If you want to know more about that, there's even more links in the description to check out. I think you're getting the pattern here. Fourth, inner ability. This is a more low-key aspect of MapleStory, since it doesn't have as profound of an impact on your gameplay compared to the ones that came before, but inner ability is certainly a very powerful tool to make use of. It's another way to boost your combat performance by giving you a random assortment of stats, some of which are extremely rare, even to the point where the only way you can get these stats is through inner abilities such as attack speed, complete cooldown reset, and others. Unfortunately, inner ability may also be the most costly to get a perfect stat. I know players who've been trying to get the perfect inner ability trio for 8+ years ever since inner ability even came out, and still not finished. So this is definitely important to you to consider going forward, but not something to lose sleep over, since it's literally the most fickle system in Maple, although it's gotten a little easier to work on over time. Back then, oh my goodness, it was terrible. Fifth, Ardentmill. Professions in MapleStory are a pretty underrated aspect, and most funded players know really little about it. Crafting is a bit hard to explain in just a few sentences, but putting it shortly, Ardentmill can become a gold mine for getting resources necessary to upgrade your character from early game into the mid game, where it becomes much more difficult to progress as a free-to-play player in a reasonable pace. I haven't made an updated guide video on this, but I can still leave links down in the description. There are 3 professions, each with its own slew of benefits: alchemy, smithing, and accessory crafting. It's recommended to have multiple characters on your account for doing professions to maximize efficiency. I believe most like endgame players do about 4 to 5 characters for smithing, 1 to 2 for accessory crafting, and like 1 for alchemy. That might just be a rough estimate. Anyway, keep an eye on Ardentmill once you become more established. Super helpful and kind of an underappreciated area. 6. Profession traits. These are a subcomponent of Ardentmill Professions, but I like them a lot. There are 6 in total that each grant a unique boost to your character: charm, ambition, empathy, insight, willpower, and diligence. Leveling these guys up has always been more or less a challenge since little is known about how to get these traits maxed out unless you've been playing for a long time. Charm provides you with some more cosmetic based things, but most importantly access to an equipment slot, the pocket item. Ambition decreases the amount of experience you lose upon dying, which you shouldn't, and it also increases your ignore defense, which makes your attacks hit harder on enemies with higher base defense. Empathy boosts your maximum MP and buff duration being a highly coveted stat. Insight is probably the most useless one since all it does is ignore elemental resist, which hasn't been a relevant thing for a while, and make it so that you can reveal a higher level potential item for free, which has never really mattered much either since the cost is so low. Anyway, moving on. Willpower grants you max HP, defense, and status resist. Not the greatest trait out there, but it's one of the easiest to max, so you have no excuse not to. Then finally diligence, which gives you a better chance of receiving bonuses when crafting and also increasing the success rate of spell traces and certain scrolls. Arguably the best trait out of the 6. Keep a mental note to max these traits as quickly as possible on your main character to get a lot of extra bonuses. 7th, the V Matrix. As you may know by now, there are 5 total job advancements for each class, except for Evan and Dual Blade, which have like 8 or so. First job, level 10, second job, level 30, third job, level 60, fourth job, level 100, and then fifth job at level 200. The V Matrix unlocks upon reaching 5th job and it allows you to get access to more skills, boost already existing skills, and a whole lot more damage. Depending on how much time you dedicate to training and grinding, some people complete their V Matrix early, and others take years and years before they finish. I'd argue people playing in normal servers can finish the V Matrix more easily since we have the option to buy node stones from the auction house, but that's kind of a moot point. The V Matrix itself doesn't exactly boost your character's overall stats. Instead, what it does on top of the 5th job skills it provides is that it powers up the strength of your damaging abilities. I have resources for this that you can access in the video description below as well. 8th, enhancements. Like most MMORPGs, you can upgrade existing equipment by spending certain materials or meso. The equip enhancer window is something you're going to be seeing very often, and you'll probably grow to hate it, but spell tracing and Starforcing will haunt you to the day you die or quit the game, so get used to it. Even though you have all of these systems in Maple in place, naturally, the most effective way of getting stronger is traditionally to have really good equipment. After all, you can't add gasoline to make a fire stronger if there's no firewood in the fireplace, so you get the idea. In Reboot, there's only access to Starforce, but in regular servers, there's also scrolling and or spell tracing. Starforce-wise, you just need only meso, and for the rest, you'll need spell traces or scrolls, which I'll get into in a later episode. Make sure to learn about spell tracing and Starforcing once again down below. There are like 30 other systems in Maple, but if I were to cover every single one in this video, it would be the longest video you've ever seen. I intentionally kept every system short and told you guys to read up a bunch of links in the description because, like I said in the first episode, you need to learn how to learn on your own. I'm like the sample guy working at the Asian supermarket where I cook up a small little, I got the fry pan going and maybe some soy sauce, and I start being an annoying little ass to customers, telling them it's free lunchtime, and then once they have some fried fish or dumplings or whatever, I tell them to buy the real deal. That's the kind of guy I'm gonna be. No, but seriously, for episodes like these where I cover a crap ton of material, it's mostly just me telling you guys that these things exist, and then you going and figuring out stuff on your own pace. Of course, I help you out by leaving you resources to reference. I understand it's a lot of material, but honestly, at this point in your progression, you're not expected to know any of this. However, when it does become relevant, you come right back to this video and start doing your homework. As much as I like to believe if you're watching my videos, that means you're willing to put in the effort to learn, get better, and whatnot, I'm willing to pay folding money that 90% of you guys already clicked off this video. Essentially speaking, I keep everything short and sweet for the sake of attention span. Right, so starting next episode, we'll get into some gameplay on actual progression, but it's just to get your feet wet. I think for the next episode, I'll get you guys started on training and grinding experience. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget a rating would be much appreciated. There's a bunch of helpful links for you to reference in the description below, but thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Take care.